Hello, welcome to our presentation. The project we chose to do is the VPN ad blocker, and today we're just going to describe the process of how the project went and the results of it, the troubleshooting, and what we learned. So the reason why we chose this project is because VPNs are used worldwide. We wanted to go with something very common and that are used heavily in the workforce. We also wanted to go with something that is very common and just very useful to have in different projects and having experience within your major, which we both are in cybersecurity, and to use for our major along with wherever we choose to work later in the future. We wanted to go with something that was medium difficulty since this is our first project using a Pi, and we wanted to do more research along this topic with the ad blocker and the VPN so we can develop new skills that we can use in future jobs. So this slide talks about the connection. The first establishment is file systems. And with file systems, it transfers the files from the Raspberry Pi to the actual laptop, as well as locate them on the directory. The next establishment is the network file access, and this is to establish the network file access through an application called FileZilla, which you will learn later on in the presentation. And this is used by transferring the file to FileZilla, then converting it to the laptop that we used. To go along with the network access file, we also ran programs. We had to run the program OpenVPN through both devices, such as FileZilla, and we also used the bash command for the Pi VPN and along with the OpenVPN. Next, I want to talk about the file protection. File protection is encrypting the files so they're protected without people gaining access to it. And the last establishment is the accessories. An example of this is the monitor, the laptop, which was heavily used in the project, the keyboard, and also the mouse. This slide talks about the process of the VPN. So to the right, you could see that we used the run sudo -pi VPN command to download it on the Raspberry Pi. You can see that the process of this to download is to update the Raspberry Pi to make sure everything is done before putting in a command to install the FileZilla. To the left, we also used the run bash command and this was used by establishing the password and the user to establish the protection of the files. We also used this by identifying the Raspberry Pi's IP address. The process of the VPN, this slide talks about just how to guide us using the Mac, since we use the MacBook. So it gave us the steps on how to access OpenVPN, how to download it, and how to connect the files from the Mac to the Raspberry Pi.
So in this next process, we're going to be talking about the FileZilla. So we had to download the FileZilla using the Raspberry Pi terminal window. So what we did was we wrote sudo apt-get FileZilla, and then it downloaded FileZilla on the terminal, which allowed us to use the application and also basically secure our file. So then we used FileZilla to transfer the file over to our laptop, which then made it much easier to actually start the process of using the VPN. Without the FileZilla, it would be much harder to use it. we would have to go to our laptop terminal and then write some code to actually transfer it using the same internet connection, which takes some time. Um, so you can see in this picture that you can download it from Mac OS, and it's supported for different types of devices, and it's very, very simple to use, and it's very efficient as well. In this next process, we'll show the ad blocker. So on the right hand side, it shows our account and it shows the installation success um, of the ad blocker. You can see the IP address at the top, which is very, very important in actually using the ad blocker. And then at the bottom, you see the admin web page login, which is basically what we use to log into our account, which gives us access to actually use the ad blocker. Then you also see some other information on the right-hand side that is also important just to understand and grasp the concept of the ad blocker in order to use it efficiently and correctly. On the right-hand side, you actually see the website. So at the top, you see the IP address 10.4.4.141/admin/. When you enter, it's going to ask you to log in, and that's where we enter our username and then the admin login webpage that they give you. That's pretty simple. Then at this point, we had an error. We had a problem. The browser would freeze, so we couldn't really use the ad blocker. But in my opinion, I think it was a success because we had all the steps completed and we understood basically the concept of actually getting the ad blocker to work. So in this next part, we're going to talk about the results. So for the VPN, we technically did have a failure because when we tried to use the OpenVPN, it just kept on loading until it said connection failure or connection issue. And it seems like a lot of students had that problem as well. So we just went ahead and just listed it as a problem in our presentation instead of just getting stuck on it. And another issue we had was enable to port forward. So basically the same concept, just connecting to the VPN. We did every step right. We transferred the file to the laptop. We established the connection using the Wi-Fi and make sure everything was correct. We actually inputted the file into the OpenVPN, so it was using the correct information. It was just unable to work. I don't know if it was a DNS issue or it was just a connection issue. So for the ad blocker, it was successful. You see in the previous slide, we talked about how we actually got to the ad blocker and the steps that we used. We did encounter an issue at this point as well, as I mentioned before, that the screen was freezing multiple times. We did try it multiple times to work, but it did not work. I don't know if it was an issue with my Pi or it was an issue with the desktop or browser, but we weren't sure. So we deem it a success, but at the same time, it was really a failure in another book. So on the right-hand side, you see the picture of the OpenVPN loading. It's not live, so you can't really see it keep loading, but on our end, it keeps loading until it says an error. And on the right-hand side, you actually see FileZilla and how we actually log in. You put the host ID, which uses the IP address, I think your username and some other information, and then we actually put the username and password, and then we click Quick Connect to actually establish the connection and get the file on our side. And then at the bottom it says successful transfers, failed transfers, queued files. Basically shows you all the options available at the bottom. So for troubleshooting, we had multiple troubleshooting. At the top, it was re-downloading the VPN. We thought that by re-downloading it that it would work, but it did not work. It just proved to be an issue with issue with another part and not really the VPN itself. Next was a firewall error, so just the protection on the file, making sure that there was no interruptions with people trying to log in or trying to get into our connections. And third one was our VPN connection errors. So what I listed a couple slides ago with the continuous loading on the screen that made it just hard to establish a connection for the VPN. And then alternative methods we tried. Try consulting peers, which is a pretty good idea because when you know that other people are having the same problem, you understand that you guys are on the same page. So we tried seeking advice from the TA peers just to get more information on how we could go for it about actually doing the part that we were stuck on. And then the lessons learned, firstly, just to read the instructions carefully because you can get easily confused by skipping a step or thinking that you can just ignore something and then think it won't bite you back later. But when you make sure you read the instructions carefully and follow each step by step, it really makes sure that you're on the same page. Don't think you're confusing yourself, and it makes the process a lot easier just from a time aspect and also